host, Sean Aaron, and welcome to Dem Bois Inc. Podcast. This show is a platform where trans men of color voices can be amplified as we share our transitional stories and many other issues that are relatable to trans men of color in our existence. This show is not only to amplify our voices, but to raise awareness and conversation around our lived experiences.
Welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, and this is episode number 32. This is the final episode of this season. This has been an amazing year of recording. This has been an amazing year of holding space for folks to come and share their transitional stories. This has been just an amazing journey. The feedback that we have received from listeners from the podcast of how much a lot of the stories resonate with them, how much this is much needed in the community to hear trans men of color share our stories, our transitions, our journeys, everything, right? Love, sex, relationships, family, parenthood. We talked about businesses. We talked about therapy. We spoke with professionals, non-professionals, just a plethora of everyone within our community as trans men of color. This has been an amazing experience. We hope to be back for season 2. I say we hope to be back because we are starting to record for season 2. I'm starting to record for season 2. So if you're listening and you're interested in being a guest, feel free to go on our Instagram, DM us, let us know you're interested. We'll get back to you with details, or you can email us at hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO@dembois.org. And we will get back to you with the next steps. I say that we hope that we'll be back for season 2 because, as we all know, running a podcast or running an organization or running anything rather costs money. A little bit of transparency. Running a podcast for a year cost Dem Bois $12,000. And so with that money, that's not including, we also pay our guests honorarium. So we pay our guests because we would like to honor the time that has spent here, actually, an hour of your time, hour and a half of your time, sometimes 2 hours of their time. We pay an honorarium because we want to honor that, right? And showing up to share your story takes a lot of vulnerability. And it takes time out of your day, right? You could have been doing anything. They could have been at the gym. They could have been, I don't know, taking care of business. They could have been with their children, their family, their loved ones. They could have been out on a hike, whatever it is that they could have been doing, that they took out their time to come and share their story here with us. We would like to honor that. So we provide honorarium. So $12,000 a year goes towards podcast producing and putting together all of the content that you see here. I heard a song the other day, and the artist, I can't remember the artist, but the artist was like, yeah, money is not important. That's true. But if money wasn't important, then everything in the world would be free. Right. So I thought that was kind of funny to hear that, because it's true, right? We try not to put an emphasis on it. But we have to realize that to run things, to keep things up and running, there is a price that we have to pay, right? So with that, I would like to say, also, if you would like to see progress in the next season or for the next season to happen, we would love to receive donations for the podcast up and running. Hey, maybe you say, you know what? I'm going to sponsor Dem Bois Podcast for the whole year. Wow, that would be great. Or you can say, hey, I would like to sponsor Dem Bois Podcast for 1 month. That would be great. Or you could say, hey, you know what? I would like to sponsor the honorariums for trans men of color throughout the year to receive to come on Dem Bois Podcast. That would be great. So yeah, just a little bit of transparency. We're working on season 2. We're hoping to be back with season 2 sooner than later. So with that said, let's get into this next episode. Hey, this is Sean Aaron, the host of Dem Bois Podcast. Are you enjoying the podcast so far? Great. I'm glad that you are. Would you consider donating today to help support the continuation of this podcast? As you know, this podcast aims to serve as a platform to highlight and amplify the voices of trans men of color and share our transition stories. The podcast not only aims to amplify trans men of color voices, but it also raises awareness around our lived experiences. You would like to donate? Where can you donate? Great. I'm glad that you asked. Link in our description will take you directly to Network for Good, whom we've partnered with in order to collect donations for the podcast. Or you can visit our website. On the website, click the donate button, and from there, you are able to donate directly to the podcast. All donations are tax deductible. What does the donations go to? Oh, I'm glad that you asked. Your donation will help to support our production costs. We are working with Jasmine from Pink Lady Productions that brings you this awesome content. And also, we pay our guests an honorarium. Pay our guests an honorarium? Yes, we do. Why? Because as trans men of color, we would like to support and uplift each other and honor the time that's given out to come here and share their stories. So if you love this podcast, share and donate. See you on the next episode. Take care. With this last episode, I wanted to focus on discussing my own personal mental health journey. And this is just for me, right? This is just my own personal journey. This is in no way a diagnosis of myself, a diagnosis of anyone else and their mental health. But this is just to discuss ways in which I have navigated my mental health over the years. So with this recording is April 2023, right? My birthday actually was March 23rd, 2023, and I was born in 81. So this past month, I turned 42. And so I want to discuss like my journey with mental health over the last 42 years of my life. And I want to say 42 years, and I don't want to say 32 years, right? Like mental health started when I was 10. No, my mental health, I've navigated it my entire life. If you listen to some of the episodes, previous episodes, like episode 3, surviving homelessness, episode 7, transitioning at work, even episode 14 with Melly, I discuss a lot of the things that I experienced in my adolescent and as an adolescent and young adulthood. And so I've been navigating my mental health my entire life. So I want to talk about it in stages, right? About the different stages in which I navigated my mental health. So when I think about my mental health now as a 42-year-old adult, I think about it as me navigating all the intersectionalities of who I am, right? So first, if I walk into a room, the first thing a person will see is that I'm Black, right? So that's one thing, and one thing that I've navigated, and we know how, and I won't say just being Black, but being a Black man. So the first thing somebody sees is that, oh, that's a Black man. No one knows my story. No one knows my journey. They just see me as a Black man, right? So navigating that in this world, in this country, in the climate of this country and in this world as a Black man, that alone already you have to tap into some mental health strength to just navigate that, right? So that's one piece of me, right? Then navigating my transness, that's one piece of me, right? Navigating myself as a parent, that's one aspect of me of my mental health. Navigating my sexuality, that's one piece of my mental health. So like all of these things, right? Navigating my trauma from when I was homeless, navigating my verbal abuse that I experienced as a child, physical abuse that I experienced as a child, also navigating parental relationships, spousal relationships, love, like all of these things, right, contribute to my mental health. And not only that, me having to navigate other people's mental health that are around me. And I have done that my entire life. And I also want to discuss like how I navigated through that, right? And so throughout all these episodes, I talk about therapy. And so now as I look at myself and I look back as a 42-year-old, and I'm currently in therapy once a week, and it has helped me tremendously, right? So I'm unlearning and trying to unpack all of these things that have been compounded on top of each other over the years in times when I didn't have therapy. And so it's also discussing and unpacking all of this trauma that I've picked up and carried with me. And then when I think about trauma and I think about all the things that I've carried with me throughout the years, I think about Erykah Badu's song Bag Lady. We'll try to put it into the show notes so we can tap. So if you want to listen to that song, if you don't know who Erykah Badu is, shame on you. I'm just joking. But and it's and pretty much in the song, she's saying, you got so much stuff, you gonna hurt your back. Pretty much all the bags that you carrying, you coming into the room, you come into the space with all this baggage that you carrying. And so so it's just learning to unpack all of that stuff over the 42 years of my life. So I want to talk about it in phases, right? But before I get into it, I want to say one thing. This is my bit of advice to people that are listening, right? And we're all human beings and we all go through our own stuff, right? But I want to say, and this, I'm speaking on this because I'm saying it from a perspective of someone outside of myself looking into me. And ever since I was younger, like people think that I'm the strong person. I carry myself in some type of way. I've always been a person that even when shit hit the fan, I still always look like I got it together. When on the inside, I may be crying. On the inside, I may be hurting. On the inside, I might have so much pain, but you would never know. I don't know if it's become a survival mechanism, really. And I'm learning that in therapy, that's just how I've learned over the years to survive. And so I want to say, check on your strong friends, the folks that you think that are in your life that are strong, that look like they got it all together. Check on them. And not just check on them just to check on them, but really check on them. Like, how are you doing? Sometimes the conversation we pass through and we say hi to people, right? We do these fake ass pleasantries of like, hey, how you doing? And then people say, fine. And then you say, oh, okay, great. Have a great day. And it's like, we on automatic with that. Like, what if you went up to somebody and said, hey, how are you? And they said, I'm not good. Are you prepared for that? Like, or I've said that to somebody before. Somebody's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm not good. And they say, okay, great. Have a great day. Like, was you even listening? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people don't listen. So I want to say, check in on the people in your life that you think are strong, because, we all human beings, right? They may seem like they're strong, but somebody may be holding on to something that they don't feel like they can let out. So check on our strong friends, right? Check on the people that you think got it all together, because they may not have it all together. They may be holding it up and stitching it together and taping it and gluing it together to look functional, but they may just really be falling apart. And so I've had that experience my whole life where people think, oh, I got it together, right? Oh, I got it together. When I was a teenager, I was out of the group of my friends, I was the one that worked. I had a job, right? So I was able to buy the things that I wanted. And I'm gonna date myself a bit, right? But when I was younger, this was when cell phones was really starting to take off, right? And it wasn't like those old brick phones. We didn't have those. I wasn't that old to remember like the brick phone. I remember them, but I didn't have one. But I was like one of the only like kids in my high school that had a phone. And out of my group of friends, I was the only person driving. So, I looked like I didn't have my own car, but I would drive my grandmother's car all the time. So I looked like I had it together. And so I've always been a person that people divulge all of their business to. I have no idea why is that. I don't know. Is it something about me, my energy or whatever? Even to this day as an adult, people just divulge their information. And so I could be falling apart, but I'm holding you together. I'm listening. And not saying that I'm not the type of person that's as empathetic. I'm very empathetic, right? And I love to help people. I love to listen. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I've always been that person that folks have come to divulge all of their stuff, right? They'll leave. empty-handed. I'm holding all their bags. So now I'm holding their bags and I'm holding my own bags. And nobody ever stopped to ask me, well, you got a bag or two you want me to carry? Right. So that's just going back to say to check on the people that you think are strong in your life. Because it may just be a curtain up, right? And so when I was younger, I experienced a lot of verbal abuse in my house. And I talk about this over different episodes, especially the episodes specific that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And so I was always in survival mode. How can I go in my house? What can I do? I was always on edge. What can I do? Because I need to make it through. I don't want my mom to say anything to me. I don't want to get a whooping, spanking, whatever you call it. And so I had to navigate in that space. And so I held on to all of those things. So when I was younger, I went to therapy. I think I was like in the 4th or 5th grade. This was my first experience with therapy. And I only went because I had a teacher who I'm going to say was racist, because she always pulled all of the black kids out of the class. All of the black kids in the class always got suspended or reprimanded or whatever. And so I've always been the type of person that I'm going to question you, right? If you going to do something, stand by that and explain it to me. I want to understand it. And I try to defend myself. And, also people try to shush kids all the time. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the adult. I know what I'm talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. And I need you to explain it to me. And so she was unable to explain it to me. So she went and called my mom and said, Sean crazy. Sean has mental health issues. Sean really needs to be in therapy. Okay. And so this is how folks get put into special education classes. This is how folks get diagnosed with things that they don't necessarily have and medicated for things that they don't necessarily have, and they're not evaluated properly, because sometimes marginalized folks are just thrown into this corner like, oh, they got a problem. And so my mom sent me to therapy, and I had a therapist. I really cannot remember what grade I was in. I think it was like the 4th or 5th grade. Anyway, I had this therapist. And it's kind of funny because this therapist, I believe, was gender expansive at the time, but I didn't know how to put words on it. I just looked at him, but I didn't know if this was a masculine woman or if it was a man. I had no idea. I just know that they went by their last name as if they were in the military. And I was young. I didn't have the words for it. I didn't have the language for it, so I didn't know. And so went into this therapy session. I thought I could trust this therapist. And as a patient, you should be able to trust the therapist. And if you have a therapist that you can't trust, you need to find a new therapist. And so, but I'm a child. I don't know. So I'm going in there and they asking me questions, and I felt comfortable. I felt welcome. And I divulged all of my feelings. I was crying. I was talking about how my mom speaks to me and like all of these things, right? Problems I was having in school and how I felt like I wasn't being listened to and all of this. I just told a lot in this little hour. And so the therapists come back and then they meet with my mom. So I go out, my mom come in, and then this therapist divulged everything that I told this therapist in this session to my mom. Why would you do that? One, that's unprofessional, and that's a violation of client therapist privilege type thing, right? And told my mom everything. So my mom was pissed, which is silly because like, why are you taking me to therapy if I need help? But you mad about what I'm talking to the therapist about. Anyway, the therapist should have never told my mom. Long story short, I got a whooping when I got home for the things that I told the therapist. And after that, I never wanted to go back. After that, I never trusted another therapist. So I went many, many years thinking that therapy was a hoax and it was not for me. And so fast forward to years later, right? So when I talked about in episode 3 about surviving homelessness, that was the most traumatic experience in my life. And I'm still working on the effects of me and my personality and who I am now at 42. after surviving homelessness, right? And so I took all of that. I carried all of that for years. I wasn't even able to talk about it for years. I took all the trauma from my childhood. I carried all of that for years. Never discussed it. Then, right, fast forward to adulthood, and I want to transition in my 30s. So now I'm unpacking all my gender stuff. I got all that now, right? My dysphoria. I like to say that, and I said this in episodes before, that the different stages in my life I was okay with. So I was okay with identifying as a lesbian. I was happy with that. But then as I progressed in life, and then I wanted to transition. Okay, so then in that in between time, now I wasn't happy with my body. I wasn't happy with how I was portrayed in the world. So now I'm holding all that. So I went to therapy again. I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust this. I'm gonna trust this process. I didn't really trust the process. I just went through it because at that time you had to have therapy for like a year. I don't know if that's still the case if you want to medically transition or not. I don't know if they still make you go to therapy for a year or whatever, or if the doctor just will sign off for you. I don't know if that's the case in every situation. I'm not sure. If somebody know the answer to that, hit me up. Let me know. But anyway, at this time, I had to go to therapy for a year. So I was like, oh shit, if I want to medically transition, I got to go through this little circus. So I did it. And I was lucky because I actually had a therapist that I trusted. She was so nice. And she was just nice. And I went to a gender specific clinic. So this is a clinic within the hospital that they specialize in gender. The therapists are trained in that way. They issue hormones, estrogen, testosterone, whatever. So you got to go through these processes. They hold groups for gender expansive folks, all of this stuff, right? So they have experience with this, and I felt so welcome. And so that was my experience with therapy. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. But then once I began to medically transition, and then I kind of like grew up out of the therapy program. I don't want to say grew up, but she threw me out. Not threw me. Pretty much my time expired. So it's like, okay, our time here is done because, you achieve what it is that you wanted to achieve. Now you on your way and on your journey. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I got all this other shit that I need to unpack. It's not just gender stuff, right? So it's like all these, now I'm holding all of that. So I didn't really get to work through all of that, but now I'm still holding on to the other stuff from homelessness. I'm still working on the other trauma from when I was a kid, all of this stuff. So it went many, many years before I went to another therapist. So I didn't go to another therapist probably about 8 years ago. Coincidentally, how my life worked out, right? Hey, this is Sean Aaron. I'm the founder and executive director of Dem Bois Inc. I am also the host of Dem Bois Podcast. As you may know, Dem Bois provides financial assistance to trans men of color in order for them to obtain gender-affirming surgery. We have great news. We're currently looking for volunteers to help support our programs. Our programs include our gender-affirming surgery grant program and also our personal care package program. We personally curate packages filled with personal hygiene items. Just to name a few, things like tissue, soap, towels, toothpaste, and toothbrushes. We mail them out to trans men of color across the country who may be in need of help caring for their personal hygiene needs. We are looking for volunteers to help raise funds to support our programs. Also, we're looking for someone locally to the Bay Area to help us put all of the care packages together. If our mission is something that resonates with you and you would like to help support our work, just let us know. You can send an email to hello@dembois.org. That is HELLO@DEMBOIS.org. And we will get back to you with further details. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the next episode. So 8 years ago, I found this amazing Black woman therapist, and she went to the same high school I went to. We grew up around the same neighborhood. So it was kind of like this, we were able to relate to one another, right? So it was an amazing experience. Womp womp. But then I expired out of that too, because why? Our medical, I want to say the way the medical is set up, they like, okay, you had enough sessions. which is sad, right? We have so much mental health uh, concerns in this country. And for one, you can't get a therapist when you need one most of the time. Two, people can't afford it most of the time. Yeah, there's a waiting list most of the time. And like people cannot get the help that they need. And so it's like, oh, I was just starting to get to the nitty gritty of what I needed to discuss in my life. And now I'm getting booted out again. So then I was like, fuck it. I don't want to go to no therapy. And this is like 8 years ago. I don't want to go to no more therapists. I'm just done. That's it. I'm done. I can't trust them. The system is not for my benefit, is not for me, blah, blah, blah. And then I hit a hard point. And I want to say my hard point came a couple of years ago, maybe about 3 years ago. And everything, all of my trauma, all of my self-negative talk, everything, my homelessness, the ending of my marriage, new relationships, sexuality changes, right? Not, I want to say it in that way, but who I was romantically involved with, different from what I was before. My life changed. It was like all of these things in my mental health came to a point where I couldn't manage it, and I became very depressed. I became suicidal. And this is a moment of transparency because most people don't know why, because people think that I'm this strong person and Sean got it all together. And so sometimes I don't let that show, but I was really torn, broken down, hurt on the insides. And then for the first time in my life, I think it's been 3 years now, I lived on my own. So it's like after my marriage, I live on my own. So now I'm lonely. And so now I'm sitting in my home alone, and all these thoughts that I've had for so long, now they're all up to the forefront. So I'm having to deal with all these issues right now. And it was very hard for me. Very hard. 2020 came, the pandemic, the isolation. And most folks think, oh, Sean look all right. Sean is okay. Sean is fine. I really wasn't. And so it got to a point where I wasn't able to function at work wise. I was working with an organization at the time, and I wasn't able to get work done. I wasn't able to go to work. Like I just was depressed. And I don't like to use that word. I oftentimes don't like to use that word because I feel like it takes away from folks who, I don't want to take away from myself, but I feel like it takes away from other folks who are really just, this is just a battle. People that are often medicated or any other thing. I feel like I'm none of those things. So I don't have the privilege to say that I'm depressed. But in actuality, after talking to the therapist that I currently have now, like that, I have to admit, like, yo, that's it. That was it for me. And that was what was going on with me. And so it got really bad to a point where I had a friend say, yo, Sean, you need some help. Like, this is not okay. And I was like, so I had went to I'ma just put it out, Kaiser. I had went to Kaiser mental health because I don't want to say, oh, I don't want to say their name. No, they need to be called out. So I went to Kaiser, right? Before, a long time ago, years ago, you go to the therapist at Kaiser, you get an appointment right away. Now, now it's so many folks needing to tap into those services that they just don't have the capacity. And it's horrible, right? And so they were like, we don't have any appointments for 6 months. 6 months. That is fucking ridiculous. What do you mean 6 months? I'm having a mental health crisis. I called a crisis hotline, and you telling me hold off on that crisis, put a cork in it, and come back in 6 months. That's not how this works. And it's sad because somebody probably was told that same thing and they probably didn't, and somebody didn't make it. That's the sad part about it. It's like we put in a hold on issues that are important and that are, and it's an emergency, right? And so I was like, I can't wait 6 months. That's just not possible. I may not even be, I won't be here in 6 months. And that's the truth. I'm like, the way I see my life and the way I see and the way I don't want to be here anymore. And 6 months is too long. So they were like, okay, we're going to help you out. We're going to give you a list of therapists so you can call. What? They gave me a list of like 30 people. 30. So what they do is they say, here are private practices that we're working with, we're contracting with. You can use your benefits to go to these private people, but you're on your own. You got to comb through this list of folks and find out somebody that works for you. I think that system is ridiculous. It's overwhelming, and it shouldn't be that way, right? So for one, it was weeks before I even looked through this list. I was overwhelmed. I'm like, wait, you want me to shuffle through 30 people and figure it out when I'm supposed to pick out who name looked the best? Like, what am I supposed to do, right? So I tried. I honestly tried. So after maybe a month or two, or maybe it was a couple of weeks, I can't remember the exact time frame, but I looked at the list and I called maybe 10 people, left voicemails. 90% of the folks that I called never even got back to me, which is unprofessional, because it could have been like, hey, I received your voicemail. I'm so sorry that you're in a crisis. I don't have the capacity at this moment. I have a colleague that I can refer you to, right? That's like the professional thing to do. But out of all those people, one person got back to me and said, hey, I'm jam-packed with my schedule. There's so many people wanting to talk to me right now. The system is just current system that they have in place is just overwhelmed with folks needing help, and there's no capacity to do so. I put you on my waiting list and I'll get back to you. Okay. Thank you. At least for getting back to me. Right. And so, long story short, they never got back to me. So I guess I was on the waiting list. I have no idea. I reached out back to them. Hey, I was on the waiting list. What's happening? Never received any word back after that. So I was still in this place of, what do I do? Because I need help. And that was the moment where my friend said, you know what? I'm watching this and I'm seeing you unravel. You need some help. I have a therapist whom I've worked with in the past that I think you should give them a call. They're a queer person and they're amazing, and it would be awesome if you can reach out to them and maybe get a session or two. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, okay, if people can see that I'm distressed, that means I don't got my shit together. For so many years, all of my life, I have always had my shit together where you would never be able to tell, at least, right? And so now I'm leaking out, right? It's coming out of my pores at this point. And so I reached out to the therapist. Long story short, again, this is the therapist who I'm currently working with every week now, and I'm on a journey to working through a lot of the trauma that I've experienced in my life, and the trauma that I have experienced, and most of it is it stems from homelessness, and it stems from my insecurities as a person. It stems from my negative self-talk, from all the things that I've heard that I grew to believe about myself, and it affects my life. It affects relationships. It affects love. It affects future relationships. It's become so it just affects my life, right? And so with this therapist that I'm working with now, it's nervous system work. So with your nervous system, it's learning how to control, and don't quote me on it, but this is how I receive it, and this is how I feel when I'm in sessions. But it's about learning how your nervous system reacts to certain situations, and learning how to work through that and to come to this like calm space. So it's kind of like learning to neutralize your body, neutralize your nervous system, learn how that feel. And so that any other time when your nervous system is elevated or heightened, you're able to ride the waves and come back down to I don't want to say normal, because what's normal, right? But you come down to something that's more manageable for who you are as a person. So that's every week I do that. And I've learned so much about myself throughout this time. I've learned how to unpack a lot of the trauma from verbal abuse. I've learned and worked through I just worked through a lot, and I won't go into specifics about what I talk about, but I'm learning for one of the first times. I've always had this thing of like, I want to chase and I want to know what happy feels like. I want to genuinely be happy. I've never been happy. And I've had happy moments. I've shared my life with people and build happy things. But that genuine inside feeling of, oh, I'm happy. I didn't know what that was. And so I'm really learning how to navigate that. And I'm learning how to communicate with folks. I'm not really good sometimes with communicating, especially with love and relationships. I have a very hard time communicating my feelings. I have a hard time communicating next steps or plans or things that I want to do. I have a hard time. I just have a hard time in romantic relationships sometimes of navigating and how I don't internalize things as done or said to me based on what I've experienced previously in my life, right? So that's kind of hard for me, and I'm really working on that. And sometimes it takes patience, and sometimes people don't have patience with that, and they say, "I'm out. I ain't got time." And some people that I feel like that would genuinely love and care for me would be like, I can wait through this. I can witness your healing, right? So yeah, so all of that, and it's one thing that I do want to end with. So throughout these episodes, and even within this one, I've talked a lot about my mom, and I've talked a lot about the things that I've experienced in my childhood and a lot of the trauma, and just trying to be transparent, right? And wanting to share with folks of like all of these things that make up me, and all of these things of my experiences lead up to and add up to who I am today. And so I was speaking with someone, I don't remember who. I think it was somebody who asked me actually, and this might have been a listener who asked, well, you talk about all these things with your mom. Is there anything good about your mom? And I had to sit back and I had to think, and I was like, that's so horrible, right? That's so horrible that mean if someone asks me that, is there anything good about my mom, that I've never portrayed that there was anything good about it. So I know with this episode, I wanted to, when I talk about mental health, I also wanted to talk about things that made my mental health better. And as it pertains to my mom. And so for one, the one things that's making me better is therapy. But that's not all, right? Another thing that has helped me with my mental health struggles is forgiveness. Learning how to forgive. The other thing is learning how to love myself. So with my mom, yeah, my mom did said some horrible things to me that I unpack in therapy, and that sometimes I bring here and I discuss with other guests or sometimes on other solo episodes. But the one thing now that helps me, and then especially with the relationship with my mom, is I have realized that I'm entitled to my feelings that I feel around my mom and the trauma that was caused to me, right? But I also have learned to not forget, but to forgive. So the person that my mom is today, sometimes I lie, sometimes she'll irritate me, some of the things that she say, but I've learned to forgive. And so before I've always said, oh, like my mom has gendered me or whatever. But I know now, I'm talking about speaking today as I record this episode, speaking today, my mom has gotten a lot better. And I genuinely see, yeah, maybe she doesn't understand. And that's okay. But she treats me with respect. And I can genuinely tell that my mom, she wants her child in her life. Me as being her child, right? So she wants her child in her life. She wants to be around. So sometimes she'll call me and we'll talk to each other and we'll check on each other. And she doesn't say him or any of that, but she'll just say my name. So she'll just say Sean or whatever, right? And so that's fine, right? And that's in a respectful way. And so I think when I reflect on things that when somebody said, was there anything good about her? I will say yes. There were moments where there were things that my mom taught me that I know came from a place of love, right? And it's things that that helped me as an adult. And one of the things that I do remember about my mom that I really love and respect about my mom, and it's one thing that I carry into adulthood, especially in relationship, when I'm in relationship, romantic relationship, what I mean is I love to sit down at a table and eat dinner or just have a meal. I won't say dinner, specifically dinner, but a meal. So one of the things that when I was a kid that I loved about my mom is no matter what was going on in our day, we always, me, her, and my two younger brothers, we always ate dinner together. That was like always the highlight of my day. So no matter what, so my mom was a single mother. She raised 3 children. And so she would cook all the time, right? Because we couldn't afford to eat out. Um, and so she cooked. Now I won't say she cooked every day because we had leftovers, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes I hate leftovers to this day because but you know, when you have a family and you try to make ends meet and you try to make things stretch, leftovers is what's happening. But we would always sit at the table and we would always eat dinner together, and it was always like, oh, what did you do today? And it was a time when we communicated, when we laughed, when we joked, and we shared our days. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about my mother. So to sum it all up, all things are not bad. I won't name off other good things, right? But all things were not bad. And I feel like as a parent, she did the best what she could, right? And when we have all this trauma and things that need to be unpacked before we have kids. And actually the last episode 31, Amari Leach, she said that in the episode about parents need to work through their trauma before they have kids, which is important, but it's not always the case, right? But it is an important thing to reach for it. If you are a person that's planning a family, planning to have a family in the future, it's like, hey, let me work through my shit so I don't project that onto my child. And then 42 years later, my child is in therapy, right? So we really need to work on ourselves. But just my bit of advice to someone listening would be 2 things. One thing is to check on your strong people in your life. And the second thing is to take care of yourself. Prioritize yourself. Prioritize your mental health. Prioritize your physical health. They always say when you get on a flight to make sure that you put your mask on first before you take care of others. And that's true in life. You have to be okay. And there's no such thing as being okay and being perfect and being healed. There's no such thing as that. But you have to be okay enough before you go out and start taking care of other people. Because if you don't put your mask on, what good are you to other people if you pass the fuck out? But everybody else is alive and breathing because you put their mask on first. And you ran out of air, and you ran out of strength, and you ran out of a way to go on because you saved everybody else first. You can save more people. You can spend time with more people. You can help more people. You can love on more people. You can build more community, better, healthy community if you put your mask on first and take care of yourself first and make sure everything is okay with you first before administering it to other people. You can't pour into other people's cups from your empty cup. So my advice is just to take care of yourself so that we could take care of each other. This has been an amazing experience. With next season, you will not be hearing me on any more of these solo episodes if everything goes according to plan. So remember, if you would like to be a guest on the show, if you know someone else who you think that's in your life or someone that you come in contact with that would be a perfect guest for the show, be sure to DM me or have that person DM us or email us at hello@dembois.org. That is HELLO@DEMBOIS.org. And until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Once again, I'm your host. My name is Sean Aaron. Be sure to like, be sure to share this show out with folks in your networks. If you would like to connect with us, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also visit our website at dembois.org. That's DEMBOIS.org. If you think you will make a great guest on the show, or maybe you have a question for myself or a future guest that you would like to hear answered on the show, please send an email to hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO@dembois.org. Until next time, take care.